Hi, Molly. It's Stephanie and Adrian from the How to Be a Redhead podcast. Welcome.
Hello, I'm so excited to meet the two of you and get to talk
Y-
today.
Yes, we're
Same.
so excited. So, throughout your life, your hair has been several colors, both naturally and by choice. So, tell us about your hair color journey and specifically, why did you go red?
It's been such a journey. I've had every hair color naturally, essentially. I was born with black hair and I have like a widow's peak, and my mom said she cried and thought I looked like Dracula. And I was like, love that. But then as a toddler, it turned more blonde. I had blonde curly hair. And then as a kid, it was just brown. And then I went through like a little like punk rock, emo, goth stage, and I dyed it pitch black, like as black as you could be. And it started
Oh,
coming in. I would
wow.
get these roots. I think one of you talked about you went blonde and you would have the orange roots.
Yes,
Yeah.
I went blonde
Stephanie.
for like 7, 8 years of my life. Yes, so I can relate.
Yeah, so when I
Yeah.
dyed my hair, I was like a preteen going through puberty. And after puberty, my hair came back very auburn. And against the
Oh.
black, it looked like I had just like this red streak down my hair. So then when I finally started going back to like my natural color, I leaned more into like the auburn. And then when I was dancing professionally, I was like, I need to just go full redhead. It's also like in my blood. My dad and my brother are both redheads. So I feel like it just
Oh,
fits
love
the
that.
family. I feel like I just needed to
Yeah.
like that extra little like highlight or bump to be like right there.
Yeah. So, how do you keep it vibrant right now?
Yeah, so I go to a woman, her name is Marcy Mermaid. She is amazing. I see
Love
her.
her name.
Yeah, she has also beautiful like orange hair. And I went in and I was like, I want your hair. She's like, great, let me do exactly that. So I see her as much as I can, but then I brought products. I also
Oh,
use,
yay. Show
Oh,
us.
yeah.
great.
Christopher
Is that
Robin.
Christoph Rubin?
Yeah,
Yes,
Robin.
yes. I knew looking at the back of the package
it's
who
so
it was.
good.
I use that
Do
too.
you?
Yeah, yeah, it's really
You use the
great.
chic copper one?
Yes. I use so many different types of products, but I just used that one maybe a week or two ago. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
great.
it
His
really
products are awesome.
adds like such dimension. I feel like I've used other things and it will be bright for like a day and then it kind of washes out. Where I feel like this really extends the life like of my red, so I don't have to go into like the salon as often. That's been my out of all the products I've used, that's been the one that's stuck like over the years.
Yeah, I know. I
That's
really,
so
really love
exciting.
that one.
We also are developing our own. So
Oh,
when we finally come
I
out
can't
with it,
wait to
we'll
try.
send
You
it to
guys are
you.
gonna do it well. Like if there's anyone to do it, it's the two of you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're coming out with a whole like family, so to say,
Love it.
of products, but one of them will
For hair.
will be similar with that application because I really love that application that you apply it. I think you can apply it on dry hair or after cleansing. I do it after
I do
cleansing.
too.
Yeah. Yeah, when my hair is wet. I know it's interesting or for me it took a long time to figure out what worked for my hair. Did you have to find that with
Yeah.
similar to like when you find a colorist, it's like finding someone that you just vibe with too and who gets what you're looking to
Oh,
achieve.
completely. And red is so hard, I found. When I was on my
Mm.
first, I did two NBA dance teams. When I was on the Celtics, they were trying to make me red, but it kept turning like maroon, like it was like a darker color red that I
Mm.
personally just like the more copper feel. And I had to go through like a couple different stylists to find someone that was able to like understand the difference between like copper versus like maroon red. Um, and then
Yeah.
just finding products because some are so much more pink, some are more orange, some are more copper. Like it's such a fine tuning to get a good red. So I completely
Yes.
understand. Yeah.
Totally, totally. And Adrian and I want to talk to you about your fitness and dance
Yeah.
journey and where you are now. So when you were younger, did you see yourself pursuing a fitness career versus solely dancing? And then I would love to know like how did you end up getting on the NBA teams? Like was that a kind of a dream of yours when you were younger?
I actually didn't really expect to dance professionally like at all. Like I went to school for psychology. I even did a couple of semesters of grad school for like psychology. Um, that was the goal, to be a therapist. But when I was in
Okay.
college, I was dancing. I did my dance team. I danced all growing up. Like, it was my extracurricular activity. And then one of my girlfriends who was a year older and graduated before me, she auditioned for the Nets and got to do the Nets dance team. And I was leaving college, and like one of the things I was going to miss the most is like my dance team, my like community. So I was like, let me just like try. Let me just like go and like try for a team, see what happens. And I remember I had like the entire NBA list of like when their auditions were, and Boston was the first audition, and I got it. So then I moved to Boston for 2
Wow.
years. Um,
Wow. Yeah, you gotta take those signs and roll with it when there's green lights. Like Matthew McConaughey's book, I don't know if I love that analogy. He did like green lights, like follow the green lights in your life, follow the red lights in your life. You know, like if something's giving you a red light, don't do it. Yellow light, caution.
yes.
But
Yeah.
yeah, you got a green
Yeah,
light.
and like I got it multiple times because I was in grad school doing the Celtics. And then I love Boston. I had my communities. I'm just like a New York girl through and through. So like wanted to get back to New York. So I just kind of auditioned for the Knicks to see if I could make that switch. But I had to decide, are you going to do the Knicks or are you going to finish grad school? And grad school, you can go back to grad school. Both my parents got their doctorates like in their 50s. So like I knew grad
Oh,
school
wow.
wasn't
Love that.
something that was going to go away. But dancing professionally, there's like a time crunch with it. Your body can only do so much. So I was like, let me just take that
Yeah.
green light, like you were saying, and kind of go dance professionally. And I did the Knicks, and I had so many amazing opportunities within dance from that, like with Ashanti, Meghan Trainor, Sugar Hill Gang. I danced for all these things. I did TV shows. I had a lot of success in like the commercial dance world. It was really exciting. And then fitness kind of came into that because you have to cross train. Obviously, when you're dancing that much as a professional,
Right. Okay.
I would have 3 hour long practices and my stamina wasn't there. So like I was like, okay, I need to start cross training. And that's when I started doing group fitness. And group fitness is kind of the perfect mix of therapy and movement because I would talk to these
Yeah.
members. I see these members every week, sometimes even more than my friends and family because they come to classes.
Yeah.
I start learning about their
Right.
lives and their happy moments and their struggling moments, and it being able to be a consistent in someone's life and pick them up not only like physically but emotionally. It was like the perfect mix of the two things I love, and that's kind of where I've been led today.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
That's such a
really
great story.
I
I love
know, I
that.
know. And I totally understand and relate with the group fitness. Prior to having kids and before COVID, I still do yoga, but religiously was like in love with this yoga studio near my house. And I miss it. We later moved, but I totally understand. It's like you see the same people at the same class, you end up talking, you meet up after for like coffee or
Yeah.
tea, you get to know that person. If that person's not like vibing, that they're like, oh, I really just wanted to get on my mat, but I really just had like an off day, you end up like really getting to know them. So I could totally understand. It made me think of that right away. Yeah, we want to go into confidence. So in one of your videos, you talk about the pillar of self-esteem and how you grew up struggling in school. Um, and where do you find your confidence you have right now?
Yeah.
Has it been a journey?
Oh,
Because you are very confident, Molly, I can tell.
Yeah,
Coming
you
from a
are.
confident
You
person
are.
to a
You
confident
exude
person.
thank
confidence.
you.
You do.
You
That's such a
do.
lovely compliment. Thank you so much.
And a great smile. Like you have good
That's
energy.
my
Yeah.
mom's smile. Shout out. Um,
Oh.
yeah, I have a couple different learning disabilities. So growing up, I was in special ed, and I actually got outplaced to go to a special ed high school in my junior year because my junior year of high school, I was reading at a fifth grade reading level. So like obviously wasn't keeping up. So when you have such dissonance between like your classmates are able to do so much easily and you just are struggling, your confidence is so low. And I feel like dance, that extracurricular activity, was so
Was your
helpful for
outlet.
me because school
Mm-hmm.
systems, they do their best. Educators are amazing, but they're made for the average learner and it's very standardized. Like we're going to teach you this one
Yeah.
way to do something, and
Mm.
here's the one like answer we want you to give. And having a brain that just thinks differently, I would be like, well, why can't we do it this way? What about this answer? Like I would just be everywhere but the point they wanted me to be at, you know? And I feel like confidence really happened after high school, that I went into college, and college, they love free and open thinkers. Like they love when you can come up with different ideas versus just kind of the standardized way of learning something. And then dance, because we all know that one saying of like, you can't judge a fish on how to climb a tree. And
Yeah.
like I was never going to be someone that sits in a room at a table all day long. Like I needed to be moving, I needed to be connecting with people. That's where my strengths were. And I get so many responses because I've been very open with my like special ed journey. I get lots of comments from like parents or people in high school now talking about how like they feel that weight of school. And I'm like, just wait. Like education is such a small part of your life. Like you're going
Of
to
your
have so
life.
many moments in life that build you up because you're a different thinker, and being able to like appreciate my differences has really given me that confidence that I have today.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually have not a similar story, but I feel like I didn't bloom as a person, especially in my confidence, until I was probably towards the end of college. Like definitely in my early 20s was like my prime for like coming out of my shell. And I do feel like when I was growing up, especially, Stephanie had a different experience, but when I was in high school, I was in the lowest level of learning at school. And a lot of it was that I was goofing off and stuff, but I was point two B in our school, which meant like the lowest.
Yeah.
And none of the teachers really encouraged me. Like they were surprised when I graduated or that I got into University of Miami. Like they were surprised. And I always knew that I had the ambition and the confidence, but it's like they didn't see it in
Right.
me. And I think it was what you said. They were trying to teach me in a way that my brain just didn't want to be taught. I didn't want to be in this box of like, take these steps and do this. And I remember the counselors were always trying to tell me to do this and do that. And it was really weird. It was like a full circle moment. But after we aired on Shark Tank, our high school wanted to interview us. And Stephanie, like I said, had such a different experience than me, but I was almost like, you guys didn't think I was going to do anything with my life. And like, here I am, and they're like shocked by it. But I just think that a lot of people, you can't, I think what I'm trying to say is that when you're in high school or even when you're younger, what teachers or someone thinks about you is not who you're going to become. I think you have to really know yourself. And I can tell just by your story that you obviously knew that you were going to do well, right? It wasn't like, who cares if you weren't at that reading level at that age? Like you ended up doing just fine.
And I think it's so, because we hold on to childhood experiences so much. Like you understand, like you remember the shame and the embarrassment of being in that lower level. Like that's how I felt about special ed. And it's more so like in hindsight, being able to look back at like little Molly and being like, you're going to be okay. Like it's going to turn out okay. Like I'm not sure if in the moment I always felt like that. I was just a very sassy child. So someone would tell me like, I can't do it. And I'd be like, well, watch me. Like, I feel like the sass was there.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there was that like a lot of shame around that because that's your whole world when you're growing up. But being an adult and being able to look back and like find the moments now, being present, that I do have strengths, that's been able to like heal a lot of those like childhood like traumas and sadness.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. You're in a great place, I can tell. So we'd love to talk about your background. What was your fitness routine like when you were a professional dancer? Because we know you just spoke about it, but you danced for the Knicks and the Celtics, but you performed alongside singers such as Meghan Trainor,
cool.
Sugar Hill Gang, Ashanti. So tell us about it.
It was intense. It was, looking back, I'm now 31, looking at my like 26-year-old self. I'm like, whoa, girl, like you're doing a lot. But I was a professional dancer. Like I was teaching at the same time. So I was teaching maybe 20 classes a week, going to rehearsals, going to auditions, and then working out for myself, which meant not only like intense workouts, but like yoga, Pilates, PT, like probably like 6 hours a day of movement, because that's what my body needed to kind of keep the momentum and keep myself going, which is so important to talk about, like, that was me as a professional. Like, that was my professional career, to be that athletic. As a human now, and just someone who's not dancing professionally, I don't need to be working out 6 hours a day, you know? Like, it's fun to kind of look back
Yeah.
at that
Yeah.
time and like how much I was doing, but being able to like take parts of that and add it into my life so I could be like a more well-rounded person now is so important. Whenever I think back to those days, I'm like, it was fun then, but I would never do that much now.
Yeah, you're probably like at times, I can't believe I did that.
Literally, there would be days that I would get home from a game like at midnight and then have to be teaching like at 6 a.m. and we get like 3 hours of sleep and like get up so excited about life. And I'm like, that was fun for a bit. And I think that's when you're doing something like that, that's kind of the schedule you have to have. But I think sometimes as like people who aren't professional athletes, we look at an athlete's schedule and we're like, oh, I'm not doing enough. Like, it's not like you're not doing enough. That's just not your
Mm.
job. That's not my job anymore. I don't need to be doing that much physical activity, you know?
Yeah, right. And then what was it like dancing for Ashanti and Meghan
It
Trainor?
was so cool. They're just so lovely and so gorgeous. Like, they're gorgeous. Like, we see them online, but then you meet them in person, and they just
Person.
have like this aura about them that I'm just like,
Oh,
you're the
yeah.
coolest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Ashanti. I mean, we're millennials.
Wow.
Like
Wow. Yeah. Some
Ashanti,
good
Ja
times to
Rule,
Ashanti and Ja Rule.
Fat Joe. I mean, I went to maybe 4 or 5 of her concerts growing up.
Did you?
It was like it was concerts where it was like a bunch of artists
Yeah.
in the R&B hip hop genre. And yeah, my friends would go, we'd make signs. I mean, I was a huge Ashanti. Still am. I love Ashanti. Whenever I see her,
Me too.
like whenever I see her on TV, I'm like, oh my God, Ashanti. Like, we need a comeback album. But
She's
yeah,
lovely. And like both of them, you could just tell are like people who take the time to like come and say hello to the dancers and like everyone that they're
that's
working with,
nice.
versus like, oh, I'm just gonna come learn the choreography, I'm gonna go. Like, they took the time to like say hello and get to know us, like just well-rounded, lovely people, which is all you want when you idolize someone and you've
Yeah.
known someone like this whole life. Then
Yeah.
to like finally meet them and they're lovely, it's just so great.
Yeah, I love that because as you know, when you look up to a celebrity, you have this idea in your head of them.
Totally. Yeah.
And then, or if it's an actor and their character, or an athlete or a singer, and then when you meet them, and yeah, it's exactly what you said, and you're like, wow, you really are so cool and humble and kind. It just makes you love them even more.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'd love to. Okay, so then you were their backup dancer, then you were on the NBA, and then what happened from when you were on the team to starting Moves with Molly, which for our listeners, it's a series of fitness classes based in science and led with the belief that all movement should be joyful. So we'd love to get into how you created Moves with Molly.
Yeah. Well, during the pandemic, I like obviously was in the height of my dance career. And then I ended up having to get eye surgery. I detached my retina and it was like a 90% tear. And
Oh my
I know it
gosh.
was scary.
How did that happen?
No idea. I started like getting this giant blind spot in my eye, and obviously was kind of like pushing off going to the doctors because it was like the beginning of the pandemic. Like, we were all sitting in our
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
So finally got to a point where I was like, okay, I have to go. It was a 90% detached. He was like, if you waited one more week, it would have been like even worse. He said it probably happened like 4 months ago. But they say it happens to people who are a little bit older and athletes. And like I was saying, I was being a crazy person working out 6 to 8 hours a day.
Mm.
So like, who knows when it happened?
Wow.
My mom likes to joke that she thinks it's from my hair whips because I have really thick hair. She's like, I think you just hair whip your eye apart. And I was like, I feel like that's not scientific, but we'll take it. When I went through that surgery, I don't have good eyesight anymore. Lights really bother me. So I realized there was probably not a realistic path of continuing to go through dance because like you can't be on a stage with the lights, you'd get dizzy. And then recovering also from that fitness wise, I was back at square one. I went from being moving to 6 to 8 hours to like the day I got cleared to move my body after a month of sitting completely still, I went on like a 3-mile walk with my mom and woke up the next day with like my entire body sore, which was a weird experience for me, but also taught me so much because I feel like I would have people come to class prior to this. They would come to class, they would say to me like, oh, I haven't worked out in a long time, or I'm coming back from a pregnancy or an injury. And I'd be like, oh, you got this. You're good. You got it. But I never
Yeah.
experienced it. And like being at square one again, I was like, okay, well, like, how is this making me feel? What does my body need? How am I going to build this habit back into my life? And kind of that made me realize there's nothing really out there that's for someone who's either a true beginner or has a lot of like negative like relationships with fitness, because so many people do. If you're like someone who does fitness consistently, there's a lot of like negative connotations around fitness, we all know. So I wanted to make a platform and a class and a format that ranged all levels. Everyone can do it. It's accessible to all and will push you in tiny ways to get better. So you're not completely up, like hurting yourself trying to push too much. So that's kind of where the switch happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. I was also, we were looking at your YouTube channel, and I wanted to tell you, you know, it wasn't until like the last 4 to 5 months, our dad has recently got sick about 5 months ago. And when he was in treatment, we would have to do YouTube videos because it was winter time and we couldn't go outside and work out. And part of what his doctors wanted him to do was to walk and to exercise. So we would start doing YouTube videos indoors because at least we would be able to walk and do things, but inside. So I really got accustomed to all of these different fitness videos online. So thankful that they exist. And then when we were going through yours, I noticed that you have the seated, the walking, the dancing, the stretching,
Seated.
and the strengthening.
Yeah.
And the seated is when he would come home after radiation, he was tired, but I knew he needed to get some exercise. So we would do like seated exercises. And I called Stephanie and I was like, Steph, I feel like I'm like a 60-year-old woman because I'm doing like these seated exercises with my dad, you know, just to like cheer him on. So I'm just sharing these stories to tell you that people really need them. And so if you are a beginner like I was, you know, helping my dad, where do you start? What is your suggestion for someone who's just on your channel? What do you do?
Yeah.
You know, what would you recommend?
You start with checking in with yourself. Exactly what you said. Where am I at today?
Okay.
What was the rest of my day? What do I need? Am I looking for something that's purely physical, like a cardio sculpt? Or am I looking for something that's a little more emotional? Am I looking for just a break in my day? Or am I looking for a giant workout? And it's really that being in touch with yourself and knowing what you need. And then we are giving you kind of all the options you can need in the range of your life. Because there's going to be times that you are only able to do the seated workout. And like, I got you when you're there. And then when you get to a place where you can do a little bit more, I also got you while you're there. Like, it's being able to check in with what you need and then having those options there. And even just like you were saying that it's winter, you can't go outside, or like having it in your home, like it's the easy couple of clicks on the computer, you're in a class versus like having to go to that yoga studio. Like you have the community and it's a few clicks away. So that's kind of where I would suggest anyone starts when you go on the channel, because there is so many options. Because one of the things we really want is to have something for everyone, being able to check in with what you need and then following along like through the playlist. Is it feelings? Is it movement? Whatever it is.
Redheads, have you heard?
We aired on ABC's Shark Tank, episode 14, season 15. We are busy developing products and continuing to grow this incredible redhead lifestyle brand.
Check out our mascara and eyebrow products in red hot shades, hair care, merch, lifestyle items, and so much more. Redheads, we can now rejoice.
Finally, there are products for us.
Use code podcast to get 15% off your next purchase. Shop at shop.howtobearedhead.com.
Yeah, I love that because every day is so different. Like I think about my journey working out. I have to do it at home just because of I have 2 little ones, and on top of everything that we're doing, I had to be a redhead on a day to day. So I can't, I wish that I could go to a gym or go to an actual studio, but For me, yes, YouTube channels. I mean, especially during the pandemic and after the pandemic, it really saved me. And I do exactly what you said, Molly, where sometimes I do have to say, okay, today I kind of just want to do like a 15-minute
Yeah.
stretch. And like Adrian said, we worked out a lot with our dad, and that was really cool and special because we had never done videos with him before. And then our mom got into it,
Love
and
it.
it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a whole family. Like I have these funny videos from over the holidays where I set up the camera and we're all like in our pajamas, like working out in front of the camera. And it's so special. I'm telling you, it was really cute. And it took the pressure off of us because even
Yeah.
having to go into a studio, he still can't get sick. So it's like when he got sick, we were like reliving COVID all over again. So we didn't even have the option of going to a
Wow.
studio, even though things have gotten back to normal. Because so I feel like it's such a lifesaver, and it takes the pressure off of like,
Mhm.
okay, I worked out today. I did it. It was in, and then, all the encouraging things like I see on your video, you're very encouraging,
Yeah.
and people need that when they are working out, the encouragement, because we can click stop at any time. Right.
Yeah.
And we're done.
That is that is true. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I did it. I did 10 minutes.
I know, and I love it. Do you, when it comes to content, like I saw your videos with Beyonce music, so I was like,
Five-parter
do you
week.
yeah. Oh
Oh,
my God, her
yeah.
album is so good.
It's so
Yes.
good.
So good. But do you take, is that how you gain inspiration for content? Is maybe it is what an artist that you love comes out with a new album? Do you kind of base it off of that?
Oh yeah, definitely sometimes because music I think is also so integral. The one thing that is
Mm,
consistent in every single video is that it's going to be rhythmic and it's going to match the music. That like if the
I
music
love
is
that.
softer, we're going to be moving softer. If the music is bigger, we're going to be moving bigger. I think that's just being a dancer that's so ingrained in who I am, and music is so healing on top of movement. So definitely when there's a new album coming out, like we are getting so excited because like that music can really guide what the movement is going to be.
Yes.
Like we were also
Yeah.
waiting for the album and we're like, okay, like what even type of class is this going to be? Like, is this going to be like a
My
walking
gosh.
strut class? Is this going to be like big, like energetic movements? We really let some of the classes, the music kind of lead what the movement is.
I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, because movement's medicine, and then music's medicine too. So you're putting the two
Yeah.
together in, in a feel good. And yeah, for me personally, I know that you would agree. It's like when I'm having an off day, I'm like, let me just move,
Yeah.
because the moment I move, the endorphins, I feel good after. Whether it's
The blood flow,
yeah,
honestly, we've learned a lot about the brain stuff, just the blood flow to
yeah,
the
to the
brain and like,
brain.
ugh, it's
Oh yeah.
health.
So
Mhm.
it's so healing in so many different ways. It's so good for your nervous system, all of that. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So what do you have planned right now with Moves for
We're
Motley?
doing for our spring
Moves with Molly.
program, we're doing a mood boost May. May is obviously mental
Oh,
health awareness month. So
yeah.
what we are doing, we're doing a month-long program, 20 classes that are meant to be a movement break in the middle of your day. It's not a workout class. It's not
Mm,
something like you have to put on a different pair of clothes for. It's something when you're at your desk or you're with your kids or you're doing something and you're feeling kind of that stress or that tiredness, that
Yeah.
3 p.m. kind of slump that we all know so well.
yeah.
You put
Yeah.
this on, and for 10 minutes, you just move your body. And we start class with a 2-minute mindful moment where we're just kind of walking, talking to each other, that inspiration kind of moment. And then we have 8 minutes of just movement. And being able to move your body is just going to energize your brain so much and kind of bring you back to that like neutral level that you need to be to like handle the rest of your day. Because I know I personally, when I hit that 3 p.m. slump, I'm like, let me grab my phone, let me curl in a ball, let me get on TikTok.
Yeah.
And that really doesn't give me the energy to finish out the day
That you
where a
need.
little bit of
Yeah.
movement will. So that's our program for May, Mood
Yeah.
Boost May. We're very excited for that. And just
Wow.
like a way to get movement in and kind of separate it from a big workout. You can move without
Mm,
it being a workout because that's just as beneficial, like you said, for your brain.
yeah.
Yeah. You know what's been scaring me lately about social media? And I don't know if it's because I'm going to be 37 this year. So I don't know if it's because I'm at 37. I'm not sure. But for the first time in like the last couple weeks, when I'm scrolling on TikTok or Instagram or whatever it is, after I drop the phone and I'm like, okay, I'm done, I don't remember what I just
Right.
saw. Like, I'm kind of just like in a trance when I'm on it. And I think that I'm like watching
Yes.
cool videos, whatever it is. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, wait, what was I watching? What was I watching? And sometimes, like it's like, oh, I saw a video for marketing. I'll send it to staff. I'm like, oh, that's cool. But for the most part, I'm not even
Right.
remembering some of this. And it's scary to me. So that's why moving is the most important thing I can do, because then I remember vividly. I have a very good memory usually. So I'm very like vivid when I'm moving, but I'm starting to really realize the effects of social media and scrolling is very unhealthy for
Yeah,
me and my
it's
brain and my body.
toxic. Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
all know it is. Like we all know. We've read the
Yeah.
articles. You
We
see
all
it for
know.
yourself. Like, and you do, like, our brains weren't meant to get that much information so quickly. It's almost
I
stressful. Like
know.
it almost takes you to that
It is. That's what it is, Molly. It's
yeah,
That's
stressful.
a good word.
So my brain is shutting down from the
totally.
stress.
And like we say stressful and we think something has to be like a traumatic thing. No, stress can be just like an overload of information. And being able to like
Yes.
get that stress out of your body is so important, especially as humans. We tend to like intellectualize our healing so much that like we do therapy, we do journaling, we meditate. And then like you sit there after therapy and you're still like, like I still don't feel great. Or like you sit there after scrolling and you're like, I still feel it all in my body. Like you have to get it out of your body. And I think movement is
Yeah.
the simplest and most natural way to do that.
Yeah.
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 I do
And
too.
then
I do too.
what's
And
dancing away the anger? We saw this in a dance video. So how does dance help you process emotions? Because when we saw that, we were like, oh my gosh, like
Yes.
instead of yelling, like Adrian and I, we come from an Italian family where we say what's ever on our mind, and a couple minutes later, we forget about it, and it felt good to get it off our chest. We
we
sometimes,
don't hold anything in,
yes,
but other people who are watching our family will be like, you guys are
I'm a
messed
total
up. You just express yourself right away. Like maybe you should give yourself a moment to process that before you tell them you're annoying.
yeah, or like, oh, like mom and dad, like we have such a healthy, maybe different relationship with our parents, where yes, we say whatever on our mind. We are respectful, but we could be like saying, yes, you're annoying, or like I'm angry right now. Our parents taught us to really share our emotions, and I think that's really important, because I have a 3-year-old toddler who we have several books on associating a color with your anger, because
love.
that's helped him be like, I'm feeling red right now. And I'm like, so you're feeling red, you're feeling angry.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool process that now,
Drama.
yeah,
The drama though.
yeah,
The drama of red.
I know, I know, I
Which
know.
you
But
know so well.
now that we're he's almost 3.5 years old. I only say this because I've learned and I've seen him now share his feelings a little bit better, as opposed to like 6 months ago. But it made me think of when we saw the video on dancing away the anger, how, oh my gosh, you can't associate movement when you're angry. I didn't think about putting the two
Mm.
together sometimes. So how did you start that? How did that come about?
Well, I've always just felt that connection to movement, but it's so
Yeah.
innate to like humans and just animals in general. Like, have you ever seen like a dog or a pet get startled and they like shake it off? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it's because they intuitively know like they need to pump out that adrenaline and cortisol, that stress hormone that just
Mm.
activated in them. They intuitively know they need to get it out of their bodies. And it's our nervous system wants to maintain balance, right? It wants to be at that equilibrium. It wants to stay balanced. But when we have stress, which can be a father getting sick, which can be just a day with the kids that's overwhelming, we get through this like stress cycle, but we never finish it. So we get to that place where we're like experiencing it. We're in fight, flight, or freeze. And then we just kind of are like, okay, I got to go about the rest of my day. Or like I go to therapy and I talk about it, but I'm still feeling it in my body. So being able to dance and to move kind of completes that cycle. And it really helps
Yeah.
attach the brain and body back together. And I think, like I said, we love to intellectualize things. We're communicative humans, obviously, but being able to physiologically get to that equilibrium again is so important. And that's why things like shaking and dancing
Yeah.
will get you there. It will kind of complete that biological completion is what it's called, that we are living in the incomplete and we kind of have to finish it off with movement. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. When my husband and I, a couple of years ago, we went to Argentina and we did this 17-mile hike. And I really love to move, but I'm not an outdoorsy person, but he is. So I, was all like geared up and like I was prepared thanks to him. But I remember, Steph, I don't know why I remember this, but you and I had gotten into like a little tiff before I don't know, it was like a month before we had gotten into this tiff. And usually I can just brush it off and shake it off, like you said, but I, for some reason, couldn't. So we were on the 17-mile hike and no cell phone. There's no cell phone coverage. You're just out there in the middle of Patagonia hiking and it's beautiful. And I was just like rattling. Like I'm not I know we talk on this podcast, but in normal everyday life, I'm more of like introvert. I don't usually get, a lot of energy from talking, but I was talking and talking and talking because I'm walking and I'm processing like the last month. I have no social media. I've just like kind of, taken a cleanse from digital. And I remember telling Josh, my husband, I'm like, I really shouldn't have yelled at stuff like that. I really regret it. And I was just like processing anger and all of things that were happening at that time.
Wow.
Like I remember we were launching our volumizing eyebrow gel and I was like, I wonder if the launch is going to go well. And we're talking, he's like, can you just like focus on like, the walking, like we have like 17 miles to go. And I don't know, for me, it was a cleanse. Like you said, like I felt cleansed walking, talking. And by the end of the walk, I had so many epiphanies about life. Like, and I use them almost every day now. Like, I'm like, when you're hiking, don't look at the top, take one step at a time. There's going to be false summits, where like Stephanie and I thought like this was going to be it, or like whatever it was with how to be a redhead. And then you have to learn, you have to keep going, and pushing yourself. And so I have learned through that experience that, and even, doing workout videos like this with anger and feeling it. And then I don't know, like almost like sweating it out it's better than a Xanax. I don't know what else to say.
It is therapy. It is.
It is. And I didn't learn that until a couple years ago when I was on that hike, that it is the best way to process emotions.
And even we know that we felt it. And then next time something happens, it's not going to be our first go-to. Like the first go-to is, well, I need to talk to her. Like I need to write it down. Like I'm going to think about it. Like it's always kind of the last thing, like in our culture, I think society, we've put movement in the box of movement is only to lose weight and change your body. And like humans have been moving our entire lives. Like we are more stationary now than we've ever been. We've really lost what movement can do for us, even though we've had experiences like the hike where you were being, like your husband was like, we're on this hike, be present, look at the hike, but you were being present in what your body was bringing up in that moment. You were feeling all these things and you're like, I need to talk about this. Like this is all happening inside of me, So I think just kind of like trying to reframe movement for people, because I also understand that if I go through something, I have to remind myself, just go for a walk, go do go do some movement, settle your body so then you can handle everything that you need to. It's so who we are.
Yeah.
We're animals at the end of the day.
And don't we learn that too especially when we go to Europe or something, I noticed how people just move in their everyday life so much more than Americans do. That they don't even like really go to the gym or like work out like we do in some ways, but they're constantly moving. I was watching that documentary about the people who live to 100.
Oh yeah.
And one of them was in Italy, and it's because they're walking uphill a lot. It's like a hill community and like they're walking up hills. And I was like, they're unconsciously working out every day and don't even know it. And it must be a reason they live long.
Because working out doesn't need to be in a gym with weights. Working out can be 10 minutes in between your meetings. Movement.
Yes.
It's about like, we're so focused on a 12-week program to abs or like a 12-week program to changing your body. And like, you have a lifetime. You have to last a lifetime, babe. Let's find a movement routine that's going to keep us healthy in all ways. So that's been kind of like my main message to people that I'm trying to get the fitness world to also be on board with.
Yeah, I know. And for me, as we talk, I'm like thinking for me, sometimes it's just, with COVID, we all got stuck being in our pajamas all day. And I try to make an effort to get ready in the morning and put on some sort, to look presentable and to make myself feel good. But then on the days where I feel so good, on the days that I do put on like my workout clothes and can get a workout in, or even we were talking about going outside, I'm always telling my kids and husband, like, okay, we got to get fresh air,
Right.
even if it's for 10,
Yeah.
15 minutes. There's something too about getting that fresh air that just like feels good. And there's so many benefits to just, moving and stretching. Sometimes movement for me sometimes too is just sitting on my yoga mat meditating for 5 minutes. Like that's and I feel so good doing that. For someone that writes into, let's say they find you on Instagram and they don't know where to start, what do you recommend to them if they're like, oh my gosh, my movement journey, like here I am, I don't know what to do? How do you guide them?
We have a class called Just Moves.
Oh, okay.
It's simply that. It's just movement. And it's more like, if I had to classify it, it would be walking workouts. And then add little flourishes to it, because I'm a dancer. You have to add like a shoulder or a flourish here and there.
Oh,
But
okay.
the first thing I always tell people is just start moving and start building the habit. When I was doing like personal training, which I don't do as much anymore, I like more community-based movements. But I would tell clients, like, if you're new to working out and you're trying to build a habit, even if you go to the gym and you just look around and then you leave, like that's step one. Like you have to practice all those kind of habits to even start the movement. So that's why we have Just Moves, because just getting up, turning on the video, putting on the clothes, maybe getting to the gym or doing it at home, like there's so many habits that need to be built before you even start working out. So that's why this Just Moves class, I feel like, has been very successful to us, because there are so many people that want to start a fitness journey and maybe things like the really intense programs that are out there, it doesn't work for them. They feel shame and guilt about it. They don't. So this is
overwhelmed.
a perfect kind of like slow ramp up to figuring out like the fitness journey. So I would definitely say check out the Just Moves classes.
I love that. I love that. Adrian,
Me
we need to pull
too.
that. We need to make sure we have her YouTube channel up on our TV for mom and dad too.
Yeah, for sure. As you can tell, we're very passionate about moving, but we wanted to talk to, before we go, about makeup. And what tips do you have for keeping makeup on? What do you do? Do you have any favorites? I mean, I'm sure you're constantly moving. So what do you do?
And you have to, this is gonna be TMI. I am the sweatiest human. I am sitting still and I'm sweating like all day long. So the makeup during dance and like during fitness has been such a journey. These are my two go-to everything products. It's a primer and a setting spray. I brought them. Carp. It's a lasting matte SPF primer. I use this for my makeup, and the one size setting spray. This will keep it on like concrete, but it doesn't feel sticky, which is like what we want. And I am like, if I should be the spokesperson for both of these products, because I just am always sweating. These are the two that will keep everything on. So
wow, so it's like a good base and then a really good lock-in. So in between, you do your normal, like whatever
and
it is.
I go through different like phases where like I'll really love like Maybelline, and then I'll love like Makeup Forever. Like I'll go through phases with makeup. But regardless of the makeup, these two, and if I like run out of one of them, I notice immediately. I'm like, it's coming off. Like I feel it. So these are definitely would be my sports like makeup every single day.
And what's the setting spray? What brand is it?
It's one size.
One size.
One size.
Oh yeah. Is it Patrick's? Okay.
Their brand. Very good. And all my Broadway friends, this is what they use as well. I feel like it's also hard to get. Like whenever I see it, I'm like, I'm gonna order 10 because I need them. And
then the primer has an SPF in it?
Yes.
Is that what you said? Oh, it does.
Because doing makeup for fitness, it does feel like there's a lot of layers. So just take out one of them, because this is both primer and sunscreen, which we're all like very fair. Like we need the sunscreen.
So how about hair? Because you say with sweating, do you feel, and you mentioned earlier your hair is really thick.
Yes.
With sweating, do you have to wash your hair a lot, or are you using dry shampoo? What do you
I
Yeah.
definitely like it will just stay sweaty in a bun for maybe a day or two longer than I'll ever admit. But I definitely I do the slick back all the time. I'm not really a dry shampoo person. And then I shower when I
Mm,
can, but I just kind of throw it up in a slick back bun.
yeah, there's
Hide
nothing
it.
like a bun, right?
Oh, off your neck and off your there's nothing like putting your hair up.
I
It's
Yes.
such a
know.
it's as good as taking the bra off.
Yes.
Let's just be real. It's
Y
just so good.
Yeah, it is. It's like bra, hair up, for me, like
Oh,
glasses on. I'm like,
Oversized
those are
in
shoulder.
my prime. I'm in my prime,
yeah.
but no one likes looking at me then.
I know. Oh my gosh. We love what you said in a TikTok video. You said, quote, motivation doesn't work, but self-acceptance does, end quote. And we love that. Tell us more
Yeah.
about that. I think self-acceptance is something that, you know, it's either a journey for someone or if they just accepted themselves like right away. Like it's Adrian and I think about how Adrian's always accepted her red hair from the moment like she was born. And then my journey has been dyed it, try to cover it up, never really wanted to identify as a redhead growing up. And then as I got into college, I really learned who I was and I was coming into self-acceptance. So talk to us about yeah, I love that. Motivation doesn't work, but self-acceptance
Yeah.
does.
Well, we've all had this moment where like we're laying in bed about to fall asleep and you're like, tomorrow is the day. Tomorrow is the day that I'm going to pull like all my life together. I'm going to do my to-do list. I'm going to do everything I need to. You're so motivated
Yeah.
the night before. And then you wake up,
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to my habits. Like, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
motivation it's fleeting. It's just a moment. Like we could be motivated by anything, but it's not going to actually get us to change our habits. But self-acceptance will. And there's Carl Rogers was a humanistic psychologist. He talks about the self-concept, and there's the self-image, which is what you know about yourself, your identity.
Hmm.
Then there's self-esteem, which is what you feel about yourself. And then there's ideal self, which is the best version you can imagine. And really what self-esteem is the difference between who you really are and what your ideal self is. So for example, if I am someone who never works out ever, but my ideal self works out 5 days a week, I'm going to feel really bad about myself every day that I don't work out. Right? Every day that I don't live up to this
Mm.
ideal self, I'm going to feel a lot of shame and a lot of guilt and maybe even start bullying myself or having that negative self-talk. So that's why self-acceptance is so important, because if you could accept where you're at right now, if you can accept all the parts of you and not put judgment or shame on it, like if you're a messy person and you walk into your room every day and you're like, oh, I feel so bad, I'm this messy person. Mess is neutral. Mess is no big deal. Like if you can find all those things about yourself and accept them, then you can start finding little moments that you can become that ideal self. Because I think also
Mm.
in this world that I kind of live in of like body neutrality, self-acceptance, sometimes people believe that leads to like what's the word? Complacency? How do you say that?
Mm.
Is that
Mm.
right?
Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
Complacency.
Go me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, oh, I can just accept it. I'm never trying to be my better self. That's not true. But if you can't love yourself where you are right now, you can't get to anything better, because you can't hate yourself into a version you're going to love. So you kind of have to start with where I'm at.
Mm.
How much do I feel about myself now, and then start to build on that. And that's kind of where motivation is great. We love it, but you got to start with like the deep stuff.
Wow, you can't hate yourself into a person you
Yeah.
want to love.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really so symbolic and so true.
Yeah.
I even when it comes to people, who are following us and listening, and you're not going to automatically wake up one day and love your
Right.
hair if you hate it so much, or if you hate your fair skin, if you hate your freckles, you hate yourself. You have to gradually get to a point of self-acceptance. And
Mm.
then sometimes, I don't know, how do you feel about faking it? What do
So
they
you make
say?
it.
Take it to make
Fake until you
make it.
make it. But I feel like sometimes it kind of tricks you into loving yourself in weird ways. If
Mm.
you're like, well, if you're being bullied at a job or school, and they're like, oh, you have ugly hair, and you're like, I love my red hair.
Totally. Oh, absolutely. And like there
even if you
Right.
don't.
And like that is so important to it as well. That like, because nothing's going to change without action. And I feel like sometimes faking it till you make it
Yeah.
is the action. That like if you were through a big
Mm.
depression episode but you have to put on a face and kind of fake it to get out of bed for your family, for your friends, for work, that's going to start the momentum to get to that place where it feels real. But
Yeah.
you can't like fake yourself into loving yourself, you know, like you can maybe put it on for other people, but you got to do the inner work. So it's that balance of like, yes, you need to take action, and like sometimes fake it till you make it is absolutely how you do that. But at the end of the day, you have to find that self-acceptance too. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, Molly, thank you for all your insight. Thank you for everything. We can't wait
I gotta
to
go
see
move
all the new
today.
videos.
Yes.
I know, we're
I'm
gonna
gonna
get
go
moving.
do one of your videos. I really am. I need to go. Like, I need to do some sort of a movement after this. So thank you
Same.
for inspiring
Same.
me.
Well, thank you both for everything you guys do, making products for people like me, people like you guys. It's amazing. So thank you.